Okay, well, let's get started. First of all, welcome everybody. I'd like to call to order any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Anybody? No? None heard. Approval of the agenda. Anybody got anything else? I just have one thing to add. I talked to Pat about it the other day. Is unfortunately we lost Paul Walker, and that was such a tragedy to lose him. He was a very valuable part of this of our community, like all the way around. It was very sad for all of us. Paul was also the member from the racetrack, and he was also vice chair of our group. So we need to just talk about how or who we should be looking at to replace Paul's position.
Devlin will be able to address that. We've had a discussion about that. So.
That'd be okay. Well, let's just leave that to the end, but I wanted to be on the agenda.
Don, it's Tony, and I think we should also recognize Tom, the loss of a huge proponent of Elora and the surrounding community. Particularly from the food perspective, Anita Stewart. She may not have been involved with this committee, but she was a huge supporter and proponent of building a community in Center Wellington, and has been for many decades.
Okay.
I also wanted to mention that a former member of the Economic Development Committee Task Force, who was on last term, Steve Dawkins, passed away as well.
Yeah. I've got instructions for all of you. I don't want anybody else dying, please.
I hope we'll do our darndest to make that happen.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll second that motion, okay?
Yeah. Anyhow, okay, so anything else for the agenda? No. Approval of the minutes. Is everybody taking a look at them? I think everything was pretty well as we did. I'll have to get together with you one day, Devlin, to sign all these things. Okay, then, if anybody object, we'll call them approved. Action items. 5.1, nomination of a business park strategy working group. At the last meeting, we sort of decided to do this and try to get Pat explained where we are, and we need to get a group that'll see if we can guide the industrial park along and work with McSweeney so that we can get them to price what we need so we can keep things moving. How many people do you want, Pat, do you think?
3 or 4, 5 maybe. I don't know. It's to work with the consultant to deal with the to work through the issues with the business park. So,
so anybody like to be on that working committee?
As soon as we have the members established, we'll work to get a first meeting with the consultant to go over the sort of terms of reference, those kind of things.
Yes, that's sort of the first line of business. Yeah.
Do we want a counselor on that committee, Andy Kelly? We need a counselor? Okay.
I would think so.
I'll volunteer.
Okay.
Pat, do you think that this committee is a good place to have the chamber present, whether that's either myself or whoever's going to be stepping into the new GM role?
Doesn't hurt.
Wouldn't hurt, yeah. Okay, so let's... anybody else?
Yeah, Don, I'll be on that too.
Okay, Kelly. I guess I could be on.
the same problem they're having. As soon as you mention mental health, you lose half your audience because, and that's been the problem with mental health all along. As soon as you hear it, you fold up your tent and you say, no, that's not me. You just don't want to admit it. So they're looking at terminology and stuff when we do that webinar to understand, talk about businesses and the problems they're having. And then in it, we'll say some of the reasons you're having these problems is mental. It's issues they're having because of stress, because they're working in a family business and it never goes in, stuff like that. And then we kind of fold the mental health stuff into it afterwards. So I'll look at getting them to do it kind of like that.
Good, thank you. Kate?
No, I was just going to mention there's a ton of stuff online right now that it's not about mental health. It's about leadership in challenging times and all other sorts of topics that are directly related to mental health. They've just put our executive team through a whole set of training that if you've ever been involved in mental health before, you know that that's exactly what it was targeting, but the positioning on it is leadership in challenging times. There's a lot of stuff out there right now that if the folks from the mental health side don't necessarily have it targeted that way, the business community has definitely put a lot of materials together already on that.
Well, it's taken away from the shame factor for that too, right? Or that people are hard to identify. So resiliency is also a big one, right? That's a lot of mental health and resiliency, same thing.
Kate, could you send Pat and I a link on that? So maybe we can, and maybe Neil, just so that we can sort of make the connections. Yeah. It could be one of the things we supply to people.
Off the top, it doesn't look like mental health stuff at all. It's just about resiliency and leadership in challenging times, et cetera, et cetera. But it gets pretty quick into self-care.
That's important. That's what we're all talking about here is get people a bit of a resource.
It also makes me think that it's something that I should probably add to the economic development resource page. Where are some links to mental health and stuff, so people can take a look at them and look at them anonymously without having to, if they're feeling, fragile or overwhelmed for the most part, which I think is probably what it is. It's overwhelmed at the moment. So I'll do that.
Good. Thank you, Pat. That's really good stuff. I mean, the more of that we can have available for folks that they can take a look at. Have you got more, I guess once you get that, do you have that page right now? I haven't been into the website for a while. I'm just thinking, do we need to, through the chamber and that, just make people aware that this stuff is going to be on the Center Wellington website?
Well, my page is, the economic resource page has been up there since early in the pandemic, and I'm constantly changing it, constantly adding new stuff as it comes out, or making changes, adding things to it, new programs, etc. So, and I know that the chamber links to ours, and we link to the chamber. So,
okay. Anyhow, just maybe a reminder for folks, just that this resource is there to just take another look because it's changing all the time. Good. Anything else on that business survey that we can?
No, at the moment, because as I said, it's still live. I would encourage anybody you can get to it both from the economic resource page and through Connect CW. It's fairly prominent on both pages. So the chamber does continue to send it out. The social media is continuing to send it out, and we're still Kendra has been doing it every 2 days on our social media, as well as as I said, we're doing Facebook ads. So 77 businesses alone is a fantastic response.
I'll say.
So I would be surprised if we got a whole lot more, because we got a ton at the moment. So, but as I said, it goes on till the end of next week, and then we'll take a look at a full report on it.
Okay, that's good. Thanks. And it's anyhow, that's worked out really well, and it's 77 businesses that need help. It's one way or the other. Anyhow, it's good. Okay, next is anything else on that, Pat?
No, not on that one. As I
Good.
said, we'll move forward on getting the final results.
Okay, so number 7 is Kelly. There he is.
So a little bit about on the county side. Firstly, though, if everybody here can just commit to making sure that they get out a link to our survey this week on their own personal networks, I think that'd be really good, because I think we can drive that number up, and that's really good that we're getting that response rate. But anything that we can all do to help, I'll put something out on my mayor Facebook page as well, just to remind people that we want to hear back from them. So if we can all do that, that'd be great. On the county side, Yana's back as the Director of Economic Development at the county, which I think is really good. She's in charge of economic development still, but also she's looking over the museum and archives and everything that happens at Wellington Place campus. I think there's a significant synergy there, and so I think she's going to bring that to the table. And hopefully it's going to kind of help the county to move ahead with some really interesting economic development / tourism related activities that we can tap into at Center Wellington. So I think that's really good. We're going through the budget process now at the county, and one of the things that we passed on to the next phase is the Continuum of Care project at Wellington Place. So that's a $136 million seniors community village that allows seniors to age in place. So the idea would be have some retirement living. It would have some cottages sort of style, so semis that people could downsize there. But also have some attainable housing units. So it's a large mix of different housing types. It would have a community center. It would have a restaurant. So kind of building a whole little neighborhood there. So it received endorsement from County Council by a pretty wide margin. So what that means is we've endorsed the concept, but we haven't put any money to it, any additional money to it yet. We've okayed that I will be going and talking to Ted Arnett and the province and the feds to try to get support from the other levels of government for this Continuum of Care project. I can't see it going forward unless we get something like $36 million from the other levels of government. There's no appetite at a county council level to go that much into debt on a project like this without additional support from the province and the federal government. It's a pretty detailed concept. It's a pretty detailed costing that went into it. So we're pretty conservative on how much revenue we'd make, and we're very detailed on what the expenses would be. So it was a really well put together plan by a consulting firm that's already done this project at the County of Simcoe in a seniors residential neighborhood that includes a long-term care facility. So it's called Georgian Village. So they've done it already and they've done it successfully. But this is only going to get council support if we get that money, and that's all that we've okayed as a county council, that we're going to go out and we're going to shop this around to the other levels of government to see if they'll support it. With the way that both the feds and the province are sending out money for senior related infrastructure projects, there is a chance that we can get it, but it will all have to come back to council one way or the other. So I just wanted to give you context. That's the big project that the county is moving ahead on right now. The other thing that is kind of percolating at a county level is can the county do anything else when it comes to supporting our businesses as they emerge from COVID? We moved ahead with that $1 million Keep Well emergency fund. We haven't done a ton more besides that, with the exception of supporting The municipalities, when they wanted to close streets and basically letting municipalities do what they want from an economic development standpoint. And I know Pat and the other economic development officers across the county worked with the county team on a regular basis, and I like the approach that the county's taken, and that is supporting what the municipalities want to do. And so I think that's going to continue, but there's a feeling among some county councillors that there is something else that the county should be doing. And that's going to come up, I think, in some budget discussions, what the county can do to support the municipalities through this tough time. So where I think we should put our mind to is, what does Center Wellington think that the county should do to support us here? And I don't know what that is, but I know that we're going to be asking the different municipalities, how can the county help out? So that's kind of the nature of the discussion that we're going to be having over the next couple of months. So I don't know what format that takes here, but it's probably a discussion that we could maybe have next economic development task force meeting, is just to think about what we think the county can do to support Center Wellington from an economic development, jobs, and investment standpoint. That's it.
That's great. And actually, Kelly and Pat, with us doing this survey, we might get out of the survey exactly what we need to do.
Yeah, really good point.
You know what I mean? To tie those two together.
And the next issue that we'll deal with, we'll probably get at that in an even deeper way.
Yeah. I think that's we kind of got the railroad track going in the right direction here. We just got to make sure we're using the information we got. Might help us with the county. It's really nice to hear that the county is looking at that, and I think it's up to us to make sure that we can use it.
How much money would be behind something like that, do you think? Or is it just sort of make a proposal and then we'll see if we can do it?
Well, I don't really know, Peter. That's a really good question. And I think we're a little bit all over the board when it comes to the county councillors. There's some councillors that feel like we should kind of really come to the table with some money. Other councillors that say, look, we got to come in at a real low budget this year, and we can't be dishing out money because wanted to alert this group that there is a feeling that the county, we want the county to help in some way, and it might not all be financial. It might be something else. So I want us to, and that's a really good point, Don, to use what comes out of the survey to kind of make our request as clear as possible. One of the challenges that we have in the county is that we're, as far as Center Wellington goes, we're pretty advanced when it comes to this task force, and we're doing a lot of things that the other municipalities aren't doing yet. So I think that's to our advantage in one way, because we can kind of push the agenda and we can kind of let them know what our information is telling us about what our businesses need, and I think that's a good thing. But the part that is a little bit challenging is the county has this predetermined mode that we have to do everything fairly across the county, and we have to do the same thing with all the municipalities. So we just have to keep that in mind. And, I will play whatever role I can to say, every municipality is different and we have different needs and we need to have some flexibility built there. But the county is always concerned with consistency across the board. So that will enter the discussion. Is if we do something for Center Wellington, well, then we have to do it for Minto or we have to do it for Whistler. So there's always that wrinkle in everything that we do with the county when it comes to economic development. So just to set expectations a little bit.
Yeah, like if you think about it, so if we get the information from the survey and we're able to approach the county with whatever it happens to the survey says, you could approach them in a manner of, well, here we are, here's our hard evidence that we need it, make it available to us and promote it, that the other communities do the survey, get the information that is applicable to them. They might have different issues. But then let them follow afterwards, but let us get going. Yes, Andy.
Don, what we might even want to try and do is, I know we've done this with the past in the county, and maybe Kelly can speak to it, is if we're looking for some funding support, it could be that each municipality gets to do something different, but the county just helps provide the financial support. So, you know, we could look at it two different ways. I have a meeting at 10 o'clock with the local CEOs. We've been meeting every 2 weeks to have these type of discussions to see how we help each other out. And then we're still meeting every couple of weeks with the county-wide with the mayors and the CEOs. So I'm sure this is something we can bring up at those meetings as well, Kelly.
So Andy, why don't you suggest at that meeting that the other CAOs get a survey going, that they can maybe.
Sorry, Don, can I just segue this into the next item, because that may, that is going to inform this discussion more. So, the next, I mean, the next item is the Economic Development Implementation Plan, but bigger than that is the county-wide business retention and expansion program that we are launching within the next week to do across the county. And that I'll ask Janet for support too, because she was on the meeting that we had on Tuesday morning, our county meeting.
Okay, well let's leave this one for now. Let's move into is there anything else that we need for the Wellington County at this point? Sounds like we're going to get into some more stuff here in a minute. Okay, so let's go on to number 8, economic strategic action plan that we have. I think everybody's got this, right? That we did. It was all sent out. Pat, do you want to go down through this and just see where we are with it?
I don't want to go through the whole thing just for time's sake, but I do want to indicate that one of the top priorities, one of the higher level priorities, because things have changed now with COVID. Some of the priorities have been readjusted in some way. One of the priorities was to get the business park started. Well, we proceeded with the land, and now we've hired a consultant to do just to help work with us on some of the other things, marketing plan, etc. One of the other big issues to do was a BR&E program. And it was something that I wanted to do in the spring, but because of the way provincial funding intake program intakes are happening, all of the municipalities in the county, all of the EDOs in the county decided somewhat to get moving on this faster, so that if something came out of the questions for the BR&E, that we could make an application to OMAFRA for funding for the intake that happens at the end of December. So, and we would probably do that through the county to do some form of program. And we're looking at the results of the BR&E to inform sort of what the big issues are and lead us to a sort of program that we could apply for funding for. So the program is going to be, we're going to use OMAFRA's 15-question COVID BR&E survey, and we're probably going to add 3 or 4 community-wide questions. If we particularly have a question that we want to add to this, we have to provide it to the county by the end of this week, and then we'll formulate the rest of the survey. But we have not chosen any particular sector to do it in. The feeling was that they wanted it to be sort of broadly done across the board of sectors, and also leave it up to the local municipalities if there was a particular sector that we wanted to focus on. So that's one of the questions that I have for discussion. Is there a sector that we want to focus on? They are hoping for somewhere in the range of 250 to 300 surveys across the whole entire county. BR&E surveys, because they're either delivered, usually delivered in an in-person interview, do tend to raise red flags and issues with individual businesses. The other thing is they do tend to lead to more in-depth discussions than our sort of 7-question survey that we have just done, even though some of the questions will be the same. And we, beyond that, we didn't have, there aren't too many parameters around it. Were there, Janet?
No, it was very broad and it was very cross sector, which I kind of asked the question, was the cross sector kind of thoughts because of COVID, or was this something that was how BRNEs were kind of moving forward anyways? Because I know in the past you try to focus on a particular sector, and I know through the chamber we got some feedback is, well, why are they only focusing on ag, and why are they only, particularly when they were focusing on downtown, there's all kinds of other businesses outside of the downtown core. So even though the needs were unique, and that's why the sector was focused on, I think being more inclusive of the entire county, and looking at the general business concerns, I think you're probably going to get a better uptake. And after the meeting the other day, my thoughts were around the specific questions for Center Wellington. Do we want to focus on the business sector that we see potential growth and resources for that? Or do we want to focus on the sectors that we know are really struggling because of COVID and need other specific resources? So that was my thought moving out of the conversation, and I see value in both places.
So that was one of the comments from OMAFRA, is some counties, when they have been doing this, because they've actually had quite a few counties get OMAFRA's assistance to do this during this period. Some of them have focused on a single sector. Some of them have focused on what they see as emerging growth. I think that Ryan from OMAFRA sort of told us that we should probably do a mix of what we see as emerging industries that have been taken the opportunity of COVID and been able to really see some growth, and also try to dig out some of the ones that may be struggling, and how can, because OMAFRA takes this information, so we'll use it to do our local, inform our local programs, but OMAFRA takes this and looks at it as at a province-wide and tries to develop programs that will adjust to the needs of the entire province. So it is used on a larger scale in the aggregate anyway. But so my questions to the committee are two. Is there any particular businesses that we want to focus on? And is there a community question that we want to send to the county for possible inclusion in this survey? So, and my third question is, who wants to help? Who wants to help do some of these interviews? Because we're going to have to do about 35 to 40 interviews here in Center Wellington, and it's really a short time frame to be able to get that done. So anybody who wants to do some of those telephone or Zoom interviews with businesses, I'm more than OMAFRA would give us a little bit of training and would provide us with it's actually an app that they use these days where you can just enter the information as you're talking to someone, and you would all have to be required to sign confidentiality agreements on that information, which we would then inform of the business who is answering the questions. And the county is talking about providing some form of gift certificate or to a local business as a gift for participating. So those are my three questions.
So what's all involved? Like, you do a Zoom meeting, and then what is it, like a form that you fill out?
Yeah, you can provide the person that you're talking to. You can provide them with the questionnaire in advance, or sometimes they haven't wanted it, and I've just gone in cold and just start. You do it in a conversational manner, but you ask the questions in it, because sometimes it's different to asking a question or answering questions, anonymously and without any feedback. But when you're in a conversation with someone and you're asking these questions, you get feedback that you wouldn't otherwise get, and provide information that suddenly they have a red flag issue that we could deal with. Just as an example of a red flag was last time we did our big BRE, we found out that one of our businesses needed a road paved in order to be able to grow their business into it in a new direction. So the township worked with them and infrastructure to pave that road. And now they're able to expand their business to include a totally new product line. So those are the kind of red flag issues that sometimes come up. I mean, you always get the ones about taxes and all of that kind of stuff. But because you're talking to them and you fill out the information, you get additional information that you can include in comments. So,
when do you need the responses by, and how long do you anticipate the interviews being?
They are saying that it's much shorter than it was last time, because I was taking about an hour and a half to do interviews, because you know, I would go to a place and you talk to somebody and, you know, it's very conversational. These ones they're saying probably might take 25 to 35 minutes. I would think at the outset, the longest. But I mean, it could be longer if you get into a really good conversation with someone. So I'm going to miss it actually, because I really enjoy going into somebody's business and seeing what they do and stuff. So this is going to be a little strange, but we are going to make it work during this strange time. So
Are the businesses sort of pre-picked?
yes. And I usually would send out an an email to them saying, last time we sent out letters, saying that, you know, we'd ask you to participate in this program, and someone will be in touch with you about setting up a meeting, etc. So.
Okay.
I'm happy to help with those interviews.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, I can help too, Pat.
Okay. Excellent.
Andy? Yes.
That'll really help.
Yeah, Don, I think the big value here is actually putting names to faces and starting building relationships with businesses that we haven't reached out to or haven't had a contact. You know, we didn't have as many the last time we did this as some of the other municipalities with contacts, just the time and busyness of our businesses. But those we have, I mean, Pat's now got those long-term relationships that we can reach out. They can reach out, and you know, I think that's, to my view, that's the biggest value out of this, even out of the data we get. It's just being able to connect with business for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I would completely agree with Andy. It was one of the first things that I did when I started working in Center Wellington, and it was a great introduction to the business community, as well as long-term. Wellington Perforated was one of the first businesses I went to. He had quite a rant to give to me, which, you know, you don't take personally, but we were able to resolve some of his issues, and now he's one of our biggest supporters. So, and he has grown his business exponentially since that time. So it really is a wonderful opportunity to really help build those relationships in the community for economic development.
Good. Okay, we've got 2 or 3 of us there, Pat, so maybe...
Yeah. I see that Ted has also offered to assist.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ted. Yeah. So that should be good. I mean, that would mean, because of the numbers, we have 4 or 5 of us doing them, we would probably maybe only have to do 8 or 10 max for each of us. So that makes it much more doable to get done in the time frame that we have.
Okay, well, if you could let us know what we have to do, or meet with OMAFRA or whatever it is.
Yeah. So now the question is there particular businesses that we would like to include in this?
There's Kate's put her name in too, so thank you. Just a thought, the new people that are going in building the plant in Elora would probably be somebody you might want to talk to. What else is being built around? It's like you got in at the front end. You got in at the front end of Wellington Perforated and helped them out. Is there other? Yes, Kelly.
We had a pretty lengthy discussion about whether we should be targeted or whether we should be holistic in the approach at the county economic development meeting, and we kind of landed on not trying to be focused, because we recognize that COVID has kind of been very interesting in how it's impacted businesses and different kinds of businesses in different ways, and sometimes the same business in the same type of business in the same industry, their their impacts are completely different. So we kind of felt like if the questions were good enough and targeted enough, they can be used across all the industries and get a different kind of information on all the industries, and then we're not missing out if we guess wrong. I personally like, if we have good questions, then I like being cross industry. Like, I don't think we're in a great position to pinpoint a specific field or specific industry. I think we should be as inclusive as we can be on this one, because I think some of the benefits are some of the surprising things we hear and some of the surprising themes that come out that cross the different industries and cross the different verticals. And so my feeling is we don't pick a certain industry, but I could be wrong.
I'm not suggesting that we pick a certain industry. I'm suggesting we have to pick 45 businesses and we pick more than we're actually going to probably interview, because some of them are going to say no. But I just need to pick 45 or 50 businesses to send these emails to and to target for these interviews. So I'm just asking for, are there businesses that we think we should be talking to, like particular businesses, not particular industries. So I'm thinking that there's some we might want to start, some that are new businesses, some that are existing businesses have been around for a while, some retail, some service commercial, some industrial, a range of them. Last time our sectors were healthcare, creative industries, manufacturing, and agriculture. I think that those are probably still valid sectors, but to choose different kinds within those businesses, within those sectors.
Would it help to send, if everybody sent just a couple names to you?
That would be great. And I'd ask Janet to assist with because I do want to include some of the agricultural businesses. Some on farms, some agricultural support industries. Yeah, probably that we didn't actually get much to last time.
So if everybody sent 5 names, 5 companies.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
So my third question was, is there a particular question that we want to see as our community questions from Center Wellington? Some of the suggestions have been around, how do people want to be communicated to? Some of them have been around training support or webinars. It can really be sort of anything that we see as.
I don't have any suggestions on that one myself. I don't know what else you'd ask.
Well, if you want to think about it for the rest of the day or tomorrow, and I'm off tomorrow, but I will monitor my email and send any that I get off to the county for a possible inclusion in the because they would like to. Unfortunately, I'm off next week, or fortunately, depends how you look at it. They're going to start rolling it out next week. With OMAFRA, and we'll probably do it sort of later the week after. So
I don't know if anything has come out in the survey so far that gives you a sense of a good question. That could be something that kind of helps us out a little bit if there's things that are coming out of there.
That's actually a good comment, Kelly. I'll take a look at actually the open-ended questions, the comments. I'll take a look at some of those to see that maybe they have informed, provided some information on a good question, because there is a question on what are your suggestions about what needs to be done. So I'll take a look at those.
Okay, Janet.
So question number 15 on the survey, any thoughts or actions that you'd like to share or suggest? And we've talked a lot about just general health of the business owners, and whether we can, as opposed in kind of that open-ended question around general health of business owners, and not saying mental health, physical health, whatever, is that something that we want to be able to capture? Because I think as we go into the winter months and stuff, then, and the wave now and people being kind of locked down for Thanksgiving and potentially Christmas, we're going to see this becoming more of an issue coming into the next spring. And I don't know what the feeling of the group is. You can collect that data, then what do you do with it? That's the question, whether it's linkages or support mechanisms. There's been some support, but not a lot of support that's really trickling down to individual business owners. They're kind of hanging on, but I think we're going to get to the point where that hanging on piece is going to become more tenuous.
Yeah, I think just a thought. I really like Kate's explanation of what her company did. I really think that's a super thing to do. If we can get those links, Kate, maybe we can take a look, and maybe we could get something that people could sign on to, like a webinar or something. How did you guys do it? Did somebody come into your place of work?
There was a couple of things. So they sent out some articles to read that were largely based around, good leadership on managing your employees' mental health. And the first point in all of those articles was demonstrating strong leadership on mental health yourself, and what that entailed. And then they did hold a couple of webinars. They were very short. They didn't resonate that much, only because you had executives from a lot of different countries. They had to make it so high level that it couldn't quite trickle down too much. But in addition, they gave the links to local courses. So a whole bunch of institutes are doing courses that are free about managing your mental health during COVID. So I'm pretty sure I did a different one, but I'm pretty sure U of T had one. So they kind of did a three-prong approach. They sent out the articles that were just for you to read. You didn't have to sign up for anything, so nobody knew that you were taking a look at mental health strategies. Then in addition, they held, ours was a mandatory webinar, to be honest, to kind of address some of what is going on. And then also send out the local links to formalized courses that are offered by recognized institutes. HBR is doing one too. The Harvard Business is doing one as well, I know. So I can share the info. It's all out there. So
Anyhow, this is one of the biggest things, and I guess this we can make the information available to everybody. Yes, Peter.
One of the things that as we close down, getting out and enjoying patios and all that sort of stuff a little bit for the winter months, one of the things that really helps, I think, with mental health is just talking to someone. And I think, even having these meetings, I partake in a couple of meetings every week with different groups of people. We do it Zoom. But I think just the ability to offer up a forum in some way for, every Thursday at 10, we're having a group and maybe have sort of a pointed talk where, like you were saying, Kate, have a topic or something, but anybody can kind of come on. And instead of being spoke to like a webinar, it's more of an open conversation for those that want to partake. And it's something that we might be able to do. I don't know how easy that would be, but part of the whole thing is just being able to have somebody to talk to. And as entrepreneurs, I find in a lot of cases, people don't have anybody to talk to. Their family don't want to hear about it anymore. Their friends don't know what they're going through. And the people that work with them generally don't want to tell them what they really feel. So just as business owners ourselves, we're having a problem getting out there and seeing, and we can't go for a beer as easy as we could, a year ago, and it's going to get harder as we move into the winter. So maybe we try and strike up some sort of forum that's going to allow that to happen within Center Wellington.
Can I add to that, Peter? Because I'll tell you why. there is already an initiative happening through Guelph that, and I just pulled it up here to read it, but it's finding balance during COVID, and it's a free online service. And it's a video series, and they've got Helen Fishburne, who's the executive director of CMHA WW. And so there's going to be a whole series of, I can forward this to you, Pat, if you want to forward this to the group, but it's a whole series of online, and it's being moderated. Jim Estel's on it. Dr. Emery Zadlik, who's been a major person informing the public, she's on it. It's all being moderated by Marva Wisdom. So this is happening already, and it's going to be happening. So I can forward this to, and maybe we get this out to the businesses as well too. So, and it's exactly what you're talking about, Peter, an open forum. There's some discussion. There's some people can watch and listen. And
So,
I'll send this to you now, Pat.
Andy, did you want to say something before I've got a comment?
No, I was just going to bring up the exact same thing as Crystal did. I just started about it last night. So there's that. We also, earlier, our CAO, our provincial board, what our executive director did was actually, I think it was folks from KPMG, just to help facilitate the conversation. And we signed up weekly, pending on, and there was no subject matter. The facilitator just went around the room and said, what's your challenge this week? And really, out of 8 or 10 people in conversation, then we all kind of voted saying, you know what? 3 of us have that similar issue. Can we just converse, chat, think things through? And we'd get through 2 or 3 different types of subjects each week. And it sure did, to me, it was more about helping battle the challenges that we were under. But to me, the bigger part was in behind was just the mental stress of saying, wow, it was just nice to have a conversation and hear, I'm not the only one going through it. And that was really, really easy to set up. People signed up, so that if we didn't have anyone a few people one week, it was just canceled. But it was just 8 or 10 people, or 5 or 6, or not large groups, and it worked really well. I think the conversation was great, but the mental support was just the relief of knowing that everybody's going through the same thing.
Sorry, Crystal, is that for, is there a particular target audience for it? Is it business owners, or is it just anybody? I'm just thinking, because this was employee stress and health that was mentioned in ours, which I'm assuming is also business owners, but it's just, there's a whole new stressors added, working from home and having your kids in and out of school, and that's impacting employees too. So I'm just wondering if it's for anybody. You're muted. Crystal, you're muted.
Crystal, you're muted.
Sorry, I got all excited, Pat. Yeah, it's for everybody, because it does reference community leaders. Different community leaders will be joining, and it's talking about, for example, Jim Estel will also offering insight in the business world during the pandemic. And so, yeah, I think they've sort of picked representatives from different areas, and will bring people in, and they plan to carry this right through the winter series, recognizing that people are inside, people are not getting out to socialize, the whole idea of it. So they had their first video, they had over 10,000 viewers.
Yeah. So why don't we, we've got all these ideas. I'll get you in just a second, Kate. We've got all these ideas. Why don't everybody take a look at that stuff? Crystal, you got that one. If we could send all this stuff to Pat, and maybe we can assemble it, and then next meeting, maybe we can get some kind of format to get it out. So, and maybe we put it in, your family, your business, like just have some pigeonholes. So if someone needs some help and they're worried about whatever, get 4 or 5 topics, maybe we could assemble, here's some places you can try to help. Just a thought to try to get a list together so we can put it up on the township website. At least people will have a place to go that they can find somebody's going to help. Any comment?
I probably included some of the stuff that's happening in the ag community too, because there's some big concerns about mental health in the agricultural community at the moment.
Sure, but like all of us, if we know there's some help out there for your ag or manufacturing or whatever the heck it happens to be, municipality, if we can get it all together, I mean, the municipality stuff's probably not available for everybody, but if you know a program, let's try to get them together so that we can get them out to everybody. because it's finding this stuff by yourself when you're in a mental health stress is very difficult, you know, and it's a very personal thing that you don't want to be doing something in public. You want to be able to go on a site and find answers. And I think the easier we can make that, the more successful it might be. Anybody else?
I was just going to comment, if we're looking at
Yep.
putting something together, in my experience, and what they did in it's a larger organization, is the larger it gets, the less engagement you have.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff out there right now, but a lot of people, we tried to do stuff across the board. As soon as you had an employee on the line, none of the leadership would say boo about anything. They, of course, had no issues to talk about at all. As soon as you, the smaller we can make it, if we're actually trying to garner that sense of engagement, and I think Peter made a really good point there. If you're trying to get that sense of engagement and that sense of a support network, the smaller we can make it, the better. Because the larger it got, the more participants there are, drastically reduces the amount, especially because you're talking about very personal topics with people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting, Kate. I know that some of the large insurance companies in Waterloo actually have been doing considerable amount of mental health work with their employees during this time. They've added mental health days to people. They've added additional vacation days. They've added weekly seminars for people to take where they can go in and it's sort of like the whole company can do it, but then they encourage individual departments and then individual team discussions on mental health and support issues. In fact, they start because individual teams at a lot of those big businesses have team meetings every single day, a team chat. The first question the team leaders are asked to ask is, what kind of support do you need from us today? So it's that kind of, like, you can do it big, but then you have to bring it small.
Mm-hmm.
And the big was still good. The big was still great for starting the topic and putting it out there as a topic to discuss, but nobody said boo until they broke it down into smaller groups.
Yeah. Well, let's see what we can get together in the next month. Get it to Pat, and let's see if we can start putting this together. Could be large groups. It could be large groups that they get some more information, move on to the next smaller group. Anybody else got anything else on that topic? So anything else for the business retention and expansion, Pat, at all? I think we pretty well did that. Huh?
No, but it is a big project that that the whole county is going to be engaging on. The last one took us, I think they were working on it. We worked on it for about a year, and this we're going to try to do something in 2 months. So
Yeah.
just like everything else during COVID, it's extremely accelerated timelines.
Yeah. Well, it's good that that's the goal, because we need this stuff. The whole world's changed. So. Okay, 8.3 Healthy Growth Advisory Committee update. Kelly, do you want to do that? Do you want me to do it, or?
I can start, and then you can add in your thoughts, Don, because you were there. It was a really good meeting that we had. Because Healthy Growth Committee, it's a new committee that we formed, and it's we're working hard to make sure it finds its way. We really want to make sure that it's practical, very similar to the way this group here works. We want to make sure that it's providing practical recommendations to council, and it's not just a forum to discuss things that just sit there. And so we've struggled a bit, but I think it's a good struggle. And so one of the things that we talked about yesterday, and it was something that kind of came up that I didn't anticipate coming up. It was started by one of our members who has had to leave Center Wellington and move to Mount Forest because she can't afford to live here anymore. And it just really got the conversation going in a good way. Is what can Center Wellington do when it comes to making housing attainable here? So we know that it's a challenge, and we've been talking about that for a long time. But it's not a simple solution. There's a few reasons why we don't have attainable housing. There's a few reasons why we don't have enough rental stock in Center Wellington, and it's going to take kind of a multi-pronged approach to it. So we had a really good discussion in Healthy Growth as what can we do as a group to start to take some real action and provide some real solid recommendations back to council on what the township can do about making, having more options for people to be able to live in the community that they want to live in. Because it doesn't sit well with me that seniors have to leave our community because they can't afford to downsize here. It doesn't sit well with me that new families can't afford to live here, so they have to go north or they have to go to KW or Guelph because they can't get rentals here. Like, there's just something wrong with that. So we know that part of the issue, and it came up yesterday, part of the issue is a political issue. It's easy for us to say that we want to have different types of housing here that provide opportunities for people at different income levels. But then when a 4-story or a 5-story apartment building comes to council, we turn it down because the neighborhood goes crazy about it. And so as politicians, sometimes we lack the courage to make the decisions that we have to make because we know, because we don't want to piss people off. So we know it's partly a political thing, but we know there's other issues as well. So what we decided as a group that we're going to do a similar thing to what Economic Development Task Force is, and kind of put a work plan together. We're going to identify the barriers to having attainable housing options or more options, identify what those barriers are, and what we can do about it. So we're going to put a bit of a work plan together that helps provide some structure to our conversation and helps provide traction on the actions that we can take. Because we don't want to get stuck in discussion land, because that happens so often. We get talking about things, and before you know it, the term of council is over, and we're still talking about the same things we talked about in the first month. So we really have to get some traction here, and we've done really well in this task force. So I kind of sold what we've done here to the growth committee, and we want to move in a similar direction there. So there is a tie-in back to economic development. It's good to have Dawn on both committees because we can tie it back in, because we know that one of the challenges that businesses are having is they don't have enough staff because they don't have enough employees, because employees can't afford to live here. So they find themselves working in Guelph from KW because then they don't have to commute. So we know that that's a tie-in back. So it's kind of we kind of pulled together. We'll pull together a bit of a work plan and then start to get some traction on some key action items, and then we'll be able to bring them back to this committee for seeing where there's synergies there, but also bring them back as recommendations back to council. That's what I remembered on.
Yep, that's great, Kelly. Just one thing that really struck me is in Elora, tell me if what was it? Airbnbs, there's what, 130? Was that the number? 130 Airbnbs in Elora. That's not Center Wellington. And so that's 130 properties that are off the rental market, which is substantial. The other thing is Steve Wright is one of the members of this, which is great because he's got his finger on sales and all that sort of stuff. The difference in building a house in Palmerston to here is $100,000. So if we're going to try to get some lower rental housing somehow, maybe through this committee, and we talked about it a little bit about it the other day, can we somehow move DC charges somewhere else or partly somewhere else to help to get the cost of the units down so that it's feasible for somebody to have rental housing? Anyhow, it was a very good discussion. It was kind of sad because this Maddie, she's been very good contributing to the group, and she's quite sad about leaving. So, and she's not the only one. That's just the one that we just happen to have in the room. And like Kelly said, it took quite a bit of the meeting, but it's so important. The other stuff that was there is the community planning permits report. There's development permits and planning permit system policy. So what they're trying to do is get a sort of one-stop shop for your site plan, not your building permit, but any of the other variations that you have to do to a site. So whether it's landscaping, whether it's, you take out a tree, you got to put another tree back. So all that sort of stuff, we're trying to get that stuff together so it's when it goes in, and it's a maximum of 45 days before it comes back out again. So it's to try to speed up. The province has put out what's called a development permit system. Anyhow, the whole goal is to try to get development permits out quickly, to get new residences built quickly. So hopefully it'll take some pressure off the pricing. I think that pretty well sums it up, doesn't it, Kelly?
Hey, Don, can you just go into maybe a little more specific why it's $100,000 more here? Is that just in the fees and the upfront costs, or is that does that include labor and all the other differences that we are from here to there? How did that $100,000 come up?
Well, there's a whole bunch. Like I've done some developing. So you start off with the cost of land. The cost of land is more here than it is in Palmerston. The cost of servicing. I don't know what the specs are up there. Maybe they cost us. Like putting a water main in here or there or a sidewalk is going to be the same. It's still a sidewalk, and same thing with the roads. But then we get into all kind of other stuff, maybe the sewage plants, or I don't know what the DC charges are up there, but it's every component of it. But like a place like Palmerston, they've got plants up there, the big car plant that's up there. They bring people from Kitchener every day. They don't have anybody. So it's a real serious problem here. The county is working on a program up in Arthur, I believe, Kelly. They're still working on that, right?
They're working
the
on
housing program?
Yeah, it's finished now. So they have a affordable housing unit that's up and running there. A small one. It's only like for 16. It's a small one. So, but it's
is that a model we could maybe try here?
They'll like the county. If we can provide land, the county's in the business, right? So if they'd replicate it, I mean, it's a really, really attractive project. I mean, if we go down that path at Healthy Growth, we'll use that as an example of how attainable housing. This is affordable housing, so it's ranked geared to income. So affordable housing, how the units can be very, very attractive. So the county's done a really good job. It's very well built, and these have to be they have to be to a higher level of standard base because you're rental, and they have to last. And so the quality is there, and I don't see any neighborhood in Center Wellington with the way this looks having an issue once they see what this can look like, once they see the attractive design of it. So now that the county's done it up in Mount Forest, this is something that if we work with the county, if this is something that comes out of our Healthy Growth Committee, that we want to initiate something with the county and township wants to provide some land for the county to do something in Center Wellington. This would be a model that they'd use for sure. It's been very effective so far.
Yeah, because the county just built the units up on Gordon Street. You just finished the second building up there.
So they're significantly larger than the one.
But I could ask Steve, right, if he could give us an idea where the difference in the costs are. But I know you start off, the first thing is land. It's that simple.
I was just wondering from that perspective on how we can affect any change there, and if we can affect any change to reduce that $100,000 down to $90,000 or do whatever we can do.
Yeah.
And on that point, Peter, that's the point about doing this working group. We have to get down to that actions that we can take that are in our sphere of influence, because some of the things are not in our sphere of influence, but we have to identify what is. So that's the whole purpose of going through this work plan, is to identify the barriers. Okay, so now what can we do about it? And if we can't do things about it, at least we explain the rationale why this is the way it is. It's a supply and demand. It's an economics thing, and we can't address that kind of stuff.
No. But that's really what it is. It's just see what we can put together. You know, we got to try to look at it because it sure is something we need in the community. Yes, Janet.
Just quickly, another meeting I was part of this past week. I'm just curious with this group whether some of the on-farm housing has been discussed from a zoning permitting perspective, because I'm getting inquiries from farms around temporary workers and around the ability to put up bunkies and temporary housing and that kind of thing. And a lot of Center Wellington does allow garden centers, garden suites, on their properties. But the cost involved in putting those up are fairly significant, and we obviously want something that is good housing, but the bunkie model that we see in a lot of other places is really not something from a building permit perspective that's really easily allowed, and is what some places are looking for. So I'm just wondering in that group whether that type of policy and zoning has been discussed.
Yes, actually, Brett, can you maybe explain where we are with that? There's some really good stuff coming, Janet. So just maybe Brett, if you could touch on it.
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time. It was just a quick question.
No, it's really good. It's all going to the same goal here.
Well, the additional dwelling units, the one or two units being added to any house is in process at the county and the township. We've actually done a few lately by minor variance, and the provincial government, as of September 18th, those units are exempted from development charges. So that's a pretty big cost taken off the table. I think that at the county level, though, the policy issue of the on-farm housing, I've not seen anything in particular coming from that end. As building code wise, the building code is the Ontario building code. So I know the province is working on new building code, and they want to have the Ontario building code coordinated with the national building code so that we have similar building standards across the whole country. And I know that's in progress, but whether it figures out a way to get on-farm housing built faster, I can't say that I've seen anything specific on that, Janet.
But Brett, would that not, the ones for in town, could that not be applied for a second unit for a farm? It's almost.
Well, absolutely, yeah. In the cases that we've seen that more recently, I think we've just in the last couple of months through minor variances actually approved 3 of them. In some cases, it's farm family wanting to live together on the same property. Some cases, it's the farmer retiring and wants to build a second unit for himself, so his son, who's taken over the farm, can move into the main residence. So it works for that. But I think Janet's talking about large-scale housing to house farm workers.
Oh, I see. Okay. Anyhow, that's where it is right now, Janet. So.
Yeah, there's lots of opportunities of international students that need to do a placement as part of their training that could be coming and they want to be able to do on farm. There's an opportunity there for them. There's an opportunity for the municipality. We can't currently do it because housing has to be provided. And in the agricultural setting where you have more space, you don't really want to put them on the top of a garage. You want to be able to build a separate type of housing that economically has to be viable.
So, Brett, do you know is the province looking at that at all, or because like with COVID, there's been a tremendous amount of problems with housing for migrant workers coming in, for instance.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't seen anything at the provincial level. In an ideal scenario, we'd have policies that said in an agricultural area, on a farm, the on-farm worker housing was a permitted use.
Yeah.
And we've never had anyone come here to pitch it to us. I could see a business like, Hybrid Turkeys or Hendrix Genetics having issues with things like that, because they do rely on external employees, and they go through a lot of employees. So
I have read some. I've been reading some stuff about the redesign of that kind of housing as well because of COVID and the need for more separation and isolation opportunities in that kind of housing. So I think that the whole situation around that is changing, and the needs are changing on the type of housing a little bit because of the pandemic. So we may see some, because of that, we may see some opportunities to change some of the rules around it.
So, Brett, would it be something that maybe Janet could get some of her group together to put a proposal together to you? Would that do any good?
yeah, I mean, I'm off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's an issue where the rules should be the same province-wide.
Right.
It shouldn't be a different set of rules in Wellington County than it is in Bruce County. That we should all have the same rules about worker housing. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be curious to see what some of the places down in Essex County, where they have the greenhouses, and they may be more reliant on migrant farm workers or farm workers that need to live on the farm, and just find out what they do from a policy point of view.
Don, I can reach out to my contacts at OFA and look if there's anything provincial-wide that is a recommendation and bring that back to the group.
If you could go at it that way, I think that'd be really good. These are all issues, right, guys? It's all makes the businesses work a little better. Now.
Sorry, Don, I just want to
Yes.
add to the agenda. I know this is going to mess up Devlin's agenda here, but there's a couple updates that I wanted to give to the committee, because there's a lot of great stuff happening in Center Wellington right at the moment, COVID or no COVID. So we are still seeing business growth. We are still seeing business opportunities. We are seeing applications all the time. In fact, we're getting busier as things go, as Brett can attest. And he keeps saying, we keep generating the stuff, and it causes problems for him. But most of you know that 10 acres have been severed off the parcel in Elora, and Sterling Marathon is building initially a 30,000 square foot building there to move some of their warehousing and eventually manufacturing up from Guelph. And it's currently under construction. We have had a application for a new business on the 5 acres that Steve Wright used to own on First Line. It has been sold to a truss manufacturer, from what I understand, and we have received some site information already on that. So that is moving in to Elora as well. And we have just received the building permit application for the new Getty Street Market, which is the new grocery store in the former location of the L&M in Elora as well. So we are seeing, people are still out there making changes, moving. I've had several inquiries to purchase land from us, and inquiries on the new land that we have. So it's not, things have not shut down completely by any means, and there are still lots of opportunities out there. And as I said, we have also got several other additional opportunities that are happening that I will come to fruition in the next little while. But just wanted to end on an optimistic note that there is still lots of great stuff happening and lots of economic growth happening out there. So
That's good. Thank you, Pat. So Devlin, do you have some issues?
Yeah, just a few little housekeeping things.
Can't hear you, Devlin.
Is this better? I'm trying to do it without an echo
Muted,
here.
Devlin.
Sorry, I've got two computers going beside each other here, so I'm trying to do it without getting a lot of feedback for everybody else. But just to piggyback on what Don had mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we do need to elect a new vice chair. So if members could maybe think about wanting to step up or thinking who would be a good vice chair for the next meeting, that would be helpful. As well, we will need to recruit a new member, and we will be starting that process in the new year, possibly in December. So if you have anybody in mind, let them know that we are recruiting and we're happy to look at all applications. Other than that, that's all I have. Thanks, Don.
Okay, thank you. Just a suggestion. Paul was with the Ag Society, and from an economic development standpoint, I think it would be really good if we had a representative from there again, because it's it's a really good tie. Now, the other one I mentioned was Dana, because Dana's now working for me, and she was not apparently she was not actually a formal member, but I think we should try to get somebody formally from the chamber, so that there's it just helps to bring all the pieces together.
So Janet is here formerly from the chamber.
Is she? Okay.
She is
So
the
Janet-
chamber
Janet
rep.
right now is doing double duty as agricultural member and a chamber member, because she's also doing some work right now for the chamber as well, in now that Dana has left. So probably giving her one role in the future she would appreciate.
Yeah.
And I think adding the chamber, like getting somebody formally from the chamber, is something we should do.
Okay.
I think Janet would agree.
And Don, just where I sit on the board of the Ag Society as well.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So I think because
Didn't know that.
our OMAFR representative is no longer on this committee as well. That's why the agricultural link, I think, was important. I guess one question I've had, I've always kind of wondered why Community Futures didn't have a seat at this organization, and I'm just wondering whether that is somebody that we should be looking at of being formally part of this group. So I could do the agricultural piece. Once we hire a new general manager, that person could then be the link through the chamber. But I do wonder, to replace Paul's position, whether Community Futures should have a seat at this table. It's my thought.
I was thinking the exact same thing this morning when we started that. So,
Well, they were
especially right now when we deal with them on so many programs and partnerships and stuff, it would be vital. I could certainly ask Rick if there's somebody on his staff who would like to.
That would be
sit, and we
great.
could suggest that they put in an application.
Well, it's a good discussion right now, because if we're looking for one, and we could look for two, or just try to make the group complete. And you'll have to talk to Kelly, of course, but anyhow, just a suggestion.
Just keep in mind, we may have to adjust the terms of reference
Yep.
to accommodate this, right?
Yeah.
So,
And Pat, I'll just say thank you to you for the optimistic thing about new business. I can tell you from a business center perspective, we're seeing an increased number of clients, and I'll tell the group that this is the challenge for every community, not just Center Wellington, but there's a lot of young people looking to start business. And the challenge for them is that they see existing businesses being given help, but there's no help for them to start. And when I sold my farm, and Janet will know this, the farm community is famous for this. Your neighbors for 35 years, but when you go to sell, they're the neighbors, the first one there can pay 10 cents on the dollar for your asset. And so I hear from a lot of young entrepreneurs is like, why aren't we helping those that, had their opportunity? We need to help those that move to the future. So it's a real balancing act that every politician plays, every community plays. We need to help, but at the same time, we need to recognize that renewal takes place in every single industry. And so I just put that out because I thought what you said, Pat, was great. There's a lot. I'm getting the biggest thing I get for people that want to move to Elora. There's nowhere to rent, not housing, but an actual a storefront.
So Don, maybe it's time that we talk about at a future meeting incubators.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm on board with that, Pat.
Let me just throw this one out. Pat knows. So I was involved, well, heavily involved with the medical building on Queen Street. And shortly, I'm not sure when, all the docs are going to move out of it. And I don't know for those that have been in the building, but the building is actually perfectly set up to be a small office incubator. By the time you get the bed out of there, there's actually a little desk in the corner. Like they're almost, there's an entrance, there's a waiting room, there's an office. It's all set up. I know the municipality is maybe looking at it to put in some of the water department, but I think it would be a great thing where people could go get one office or two offices, because each floor, the way it was set up is each dock, there was 4 docks on each floor. So there was an office for the dock plus 2 exam rooms. So you would have 2 different options for renting it out. You could rent out an exam room, which is big enough to have a computer and, you know, do a bit of your office work, or an office or 2. So it's a thing that is set up. Like it's all wired for computers. Now it's all one, but it's like the docks move out. You could literally move right in.
So John and I have been throwing around that, not necessarily in that location, but the idea of that kind of thing for a while. So you know, it's a case of making a business case for something like that, and determining if there is a need, which I think that we could probably do, but I think that's a topic for another meeting, because we're probably at the end of this one. But
Yeah.
it's just to let you know that there are opportunities for that kind of stuff, and there is business growth happening, and lots of entrepreneurship still going on out there.
Yeah.
So
Tony, the Community Futures is the link that you need for your guys to start up, and that's what they do is they give out money. Well, they lend it out, but it's backstopped by the federal government. So if something happens, it's not the end of the world. I did some mentoring there for a few years, and it's great. It really helps a lot of people get going.
Oh no, we use them. We have a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
And we also aware of a number of different initiatives in different communities as well. Along with, I mean, in Northern Ontario, the VEDDEV have a 50% grant for women entrepreneurs starting a business. That's in the northern part of our province. There's different programs right across the country and across Ontario. I was simply saying it, Don, from the point of view that, I mean, right now, there's a lot of people looking to start restaurants. A friend of mine is just going to be opening one up because they can buy the equipment for next to nothing. And so they see a real opportunity. So it's like the old Chinese saying, and for every action, there's a like reaction. Where there's adversity for some, there's opportunity for others.
Yep.
And so I agree with Pat. There's growth happening out there, and never underestimate the power of the younger entrepreneurs that are coming on.
Anyhow, I guess is there anything?
By the way,
is there anything else we could wind up the meeting? Anybody got anything else? I just have one thing I'd like to say is, as chair of this committee and being involved with the other committees, we are the luckiest people in the world, folks, to live where we are. And every day we should get up and thank that. Anyhow, if there isn't anything else, we'll see. I think it's the 2nd. Is that right, Devlin?
well, the next meeting would be our Christmas luncheon, and we're still figuring out how we're going to deal with that. So, in a pandemic-inspired way, we're working on that. But get back to us. It's not going to be a formal meeting in December, but it'll be something else.
Okay.
Everybody bring your own bottle of wine and your meal, and we'll sit here on Zoom at noon and just watch the day disappear.
Yeah, exactly. Anyhow, thanks everybody. Take care.
Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, bye-bye.